You are Locked On Rays, your daily Tampa Bay Rays podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into another episode of the Locked On Rays podcast. My name is Ulises Sambrano, and on behalf of Kevin Weiss, who is not in Okinawa, Japan with me, we are the hosts of the Locked On Rays podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for making us your first listen every day, and make sure to please subscribe and follow to the show on any podcast platform, on social media as well. We're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, so make sure to follow us there, and of course subscribe to the channel on YouTube if you're watching us there. Thank you. Hit that like button right now. Anytime you hit that like button, first of all, it's free. And second of all, it helps us reach more Rays fans that might not know about the show, which is fantastic because then it grows the community. So we thank you for doing that. We appreciate it. You know what we appreciate as Rays fans is beating 11-2 other teams like the Rays did. That was nice on Tuesday evening. 11-2. It was a close game for a long time, Sandy Alcantara, but you know, the floodgates open, I think, after him having 107 pitches or so. Boom. And yeah, everybody got in the action. Randy Arozarena got a 2-run homer, 3-run homer by Isaac Paredes, who is going to be a 30-homer, 100 RBI guy. Incredible what he has been doing in 2023. Josh Lowe got in the action. Even Vidal Brujan got a hit, people. Everything just kind of came together offensively. And yeah, Savale did enough. He got the W. He gave you 5 and dive, but sometimes you're going to need that. And Erasmo put in some work there with 2 innings. Look, it was sometimes you need these kind of games, you know, to give everybody kind of a rest and a happy evening in South Beach, which they all deserved and they hopefully got. So not a lot of, you know, picking apart this game. And an 11-2 game doesn't have to be picked apart that strenuously. I do want to have a question to be posed to the YouTube commenters here. What do you think about Vidal Brujan after Tuesday night's game? How do you see him fit in the team? Somebody asked me on Twitter if I saw him, or I don't remember the question about Vidal Brujan. How many? I know. I think the question was how many at bats will I have to endure of Vidal Brujan? And I said I don't think he's going to make it to spring training 2024 with the Rays, and that's not really a hot take. Is it a hot take? You help me out. Is saying that Vidal Brujan will not be with the Rays for the spring training of 2024, is that a hot take? Leave it down in the comments if that's a hot take or not, or if that's a very cold take, a freezing cold take that everybody expects him not to be there. But you know, we all have our likes with players, and we evaluate them differently. So somebody might be like, yeah, dude, that's completely wrong. I see Vidal Brujan having a future with the team. So leave it down in the comments. I want to read them and see what you guys think on how he fits, how you think he will fit, or if he's out. And that's it. We've seen everything from Vidal Brujan anymore. You know, a lot of people might still want to hold on to the prospect value that he had, but that's long gone. So we'll see. We will have so much more on this episode regarding that P word, prospects. But before we get to that, I do have to tell you about something really cool. And that really cool thing is called bunches. Okay, we've been telling you about bunches for a while, but if you haven't heard it yet, Bunches is a new app that is built just for sports fans, where you can chat sports in real time. Okay, there's a link in the show notes or a description and then you can join the app or go to the Apple App Store and download Bunches right now. You're going to love the conversations that you're going to have with other Locked On Sports fans. Bunches is it's a free app. And when you create your profile, which by the way takes like 30 seconds, it's really, really simple. There's going to be a tab there on the Discover saying Locked On MLB. So you're going to see everybody from Locked On that has a profile be there. I mean, Locked On Astros host is there, H-Town Wheelhouse, Mr. Kaspic from Locked On San Francisco Giants is on there, Lord Pratt, Lord because he's British, the Miami Marlins Locked On host is there, and of course other fans of the shows are there, and it gets pretty heated and but pretty fun conversation there. It's lively. And I know that you guys like to have lively conversations because I've seen the YouTube comments. So download the Bunches app today. And when you do, our friends at Bunches have featured that Locked On MLB Bunch in the Discover tab. Click the show notes to join the Locked On MLB Bunch community today. Up next, we're going to have the second part of the Aram Leighton interview that Kevin did. And I hope you guys enjoy more prospect talk because I know as Rays fans, we really, really like our prospects. So here is, without further ado, Kevin and Aram.
Certainly. And we certainly don't want to give the listeners wander fatigue. I'm sure they've heard it, they've read it, they've seen it, all of that. But I will move on to another player that is off the field for different reasons, injury reasons. Shane McClanahan he's going to be out until 2025, nursing his second Tommy John surgery. His first was back when he was at USF, I think in 2016. You're really in tune to, of course, all things baseball, but the effect of a guy getting that second Tommy John surgery and just your prognostication on how well Shane McClanahan can come back from that. Can he be like he was before? Will he be better than before? Or should we just kind of throw question marks in the air and say, we don't know. He might have to be converted to a reliever. Some issue could come up with the procedure or the rehab where he's not the same Shane McClanahan of yesteryear.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I'm glad you asked it, and it's really disappointing because I feel for Rays fans in general between the Wander news and then that news. But we're fortunate to be able to talk to Walker Buehler on the Just Baseball show every single Monday, and he's in the final stages here of his recovery of his second Tommy John surgery, and I mean the amount of insight that he's been able to provide has been really, really fascinating. And he's already starting to feel good. It's taken a little bit of time. And the one positive that he's highlighted is that he was talking about how his pitches are too big, meaning that they're almost too much break, not as sharp, because his hand, his mobility, his wrist mobility is better than it ever was, because he got the Tommy John really early. And then he had been throwing through a lot of, forearm discomfort and things and limited mobility for a while. And now he actually feels better in some ways. The velocity isn't totally there. He's 93, 95, which will play with his arsenal, and that would play with McClanahan's arsenal too. But he also feels like he has this field of pitch that was different, and there's some rust to shake off, but he feels better. And I think with McClanahan, remember, he got that Tommy John 6-7 years ago. Yeah. And now he gets it again. I can almost guarantee you he's been throwing through discomfort for some time. We've seen him on and off the IL in spots. I think, and we don't have enough evidence of double Tommy John guys, but you saw Nady Eovaldi come back, pitch really well, unfortunately got hurt again. We've seen now TJ Antone come back, and now he's been looking pretty good. And there's some other examples of double TJ guys that have thrown pretty well. I think he can come back and be really good. I just wonder what the shelf life is of the second one. And you know what? And Walker was talking about this. He said, we kind of sign up for this when we throw the ball as hard as we can every single time. There's certain pitchers that just they want to throw 100 every single time, and they know that what's going to come with that territory. Maybe you reinvent yourself a little bit, or maybe after that second TJ, you do the same damn thing and know that you got 5 years or so to just cut that thing loose and hope it holds up. And, I think it's somewhere in that range. And you know what? Like, that's fine. I think these guys, they understand that it's a short shelf life sometimes when you throw the way that you throw. And McClanahan has kind of that reliever's delivery, and that was always a concern with him. I think he's going to come back. I think he's going to be all right. I think the one thing I don't know is how long the shelf life will be the second time around, because we don't have a lot of precedent here. But I think we're becoming more and more optimistic that guys can come back from that second Tommy John and come back to the mound and at least be some version of themselves.
And tied into that, this is a question that gets asked or proposed on occasion, and I don't think the Rays are necessarily different than what other organizations are dealing with and struggling with the pitching injuries, because you mentioned it. Guys are throwing as hard as possible. They're throwing 98, 99, 100. That's not a normal thing to do, for 80, 90 times every 5 days, whatever it may be. But you have Tyler Glass now, what he's dealt with. You have Shane McClanahan now. You have Jeffrey Springs. You have Drew Rasmussen. You have Shane Baz. I don't know if you've heard anything about how the Rays deploy their pitchers that maybe lend them to getting injured more often or more frequently, or it's just the nature of the business and the nature of the gameplay nowadays is we want the flamethrowers that have 3-4 breaking balls.
Yeah. Man, I really think it's more of who they target versus how they handle them.
Yeah.
Look at all the guys that go down. It's all over the league. And I know that right now it's hit the Rays a little bit harder of late. And over the last couple of years, but again, Tyler Glasnow is a specific type of pitcher. Tyler Glasnow is cut from the DeGrom cloth. Shane McClanahan is cut from the DeGrom cloth, right? It's like you're pushing your body to the max. Like, what's the hardest pitch that we've ever seen thrown? They say like 105, something like that.
Right.
What percentage of human beings can throw a baseball 100 miles an hour? I don't know what the exact number is. I promise you there's a lot of zeros after the decimal. And the point being is like the Rays find these guys and or develop these guys into these types of throwers. I mean, McClanahan was 93 in college. McClanahan in 2019 in low A was 93, 95. Then he was kind of 90, 94, 95 in double A. And then he kind of gets up after the alt site. He starts getting up to 96, 97, and then gets up to the big leagues. He's 97, 98, 99. And that's where I think, yeah, it's a blessing and a curse that you can help kind of get more out of these guys because you're pushing your body to the limit. And the human body can only handle so much force. And I just think it's the Rays like catch-22 here of, hey, yeah, like we can get guys to throw hard. We can get guys or we identify guys that throw hard, but that comes with the risk of injury. And anyone can get hurt. But there's a correlation between pushing the human body to the edge of what most humans are capable of doing and getting hurt. And I think you look at a lot of the Rays guys, that's what it is. Then you look at the relievers. What do they target in relievers? They target guys that throw from all different arm slots. And I don't know, there's not enough science to say this hurts you more than this. And for those that are listening, I have my arm one way and then my arm another angle. But look at Jason Adam throw versus Pete Fairbanks throw versus like these guys all have different arm angles and certain guys are going to be a little bit more susceptible to injury. Like it's just the nature of the beast. And I think the Rays have kind of just bought into the risk and accept the consequences and live and die by it. But I don't think it's anything they're doing that's making guys more likely to get hurt.
That makes sense. And I think that brings a certain level of level-headedness to the situation because people just want to go out with the picket fences and say, or the picket sticks and say, oh, it's the Rays that are causing the problem. And that's not necessarily true. I think there's more nuance with all of this. Speaking of Tyler Glasnow, he is projected to be owed $25 million this offseason, or during the course of the 2024 season. And we've had this debate on the program really over the course of the year is do the Rays pick that up or do they try to cash out and get a prospect, couple prospects or a guy that can help them out? Basically knowing that Shane McClanahan is out of the fold and Wander Franco, you have to basically play with the assumption that he's no longer with the team or the organization going forward. The other pitching injuries of Springs and Rasmussen, is it a little case of retool, rebuild, maybe get two arms for Glasnow's one, knowing that, maybe the Rays they don't have any intention or hope to extend him long-term. Just what would you do if you're the Rays? You have Tyler Glasnow on the hook for $25 million in 24.
Yeah. So, I mean, step one, you're picking up that option. And then, to your point, then are you trading him or are you holding on to him? And the tough part for me is that when he's healthy, I mean, he's one of the best pitchers in Major League Baseball.
Mm-hmm.
Last 10 starts, he's punched out 84. But how much can you rely on this guy? I don't know. How I would approach it. I mean, you're going to get Shane Baz back next year, which is going to be a godsend.
Yeah.
Jeffrey Springs, unfortunately, won't be back until I'd assume the end of the year at best, probably out for season. So what do you have for next year? You have Eflin, which, by the way, great signing.
Mm-hmm.
Savali, I think that was a good move for them to go get him. And then you can probably pencil Shane Baz in. But you got Taj Bradley. Can you count on him? I don't know. I think, this is a guy that you probably can't just go into your season counting on. And I know the Rays have a good system, but they don't have a ton of arms that I'm pointing to that guy and saying he can plug in and play,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's not Grace. Taj Bradley's not Grayson Rodriguez. So I think you have to pick up the option and plan on going into the season with him on your ball club. But what I really think they should be doing this offseason is shopping around some of those infielders. And they're going to have another 40-man crunch, trouble in paradise. They're going to have that. And I think that might be the time where they try to find that arm, because there's a lot of players that they have that I promise you teams will take in the Rule 5. Even in Austin Shenton, teams taking him in the Rule 5. I feel very confident that a team would take Austin Shenton in the Rule 5. So when you have like the Luke Rayleys of the world emerging and things like that, you can put together a pretty nice package and I think go get an arm. And then from there, decide what you want to do with Glasnow. But I think regardless, they got to go trade an arm. That said, I think you got to roll with the punches and pick up this option and roll with him next year and hope that he can stay healthy, because outside of Glasnow, who are you giving the ball to game one in a postseason series? Yeah. I know the Rays are so good at piecing together the bullpen and so good at squeezing every drop out of their arms. But game one or game 7, must-win game. Zach Eflin to the bullpen? Like, maybe that works. Tyler Glasnow can give you 7 shutty and win you a game himself. And I think every team needs one guy like that. And I think they need that.
Well, with September right around the corner, I know you guys are ready for that NFL season, and you can get ready for that NFL season with incredible offers from FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Plus, all customer who bet $5 will get $100 off NFL Sunday tickets from YouTube and YouTube TV. Now is the best time to join FanDuel. The app is super easy to use, and you can bet on everything from spreads to player props and much, much more. So visit FanDuel.com/locked-on and kick off the NFL season with an offer you won't want to miss. Again, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
Speaking of playoffs, I know it's a little bit wild till that happens, but sooner rather than later. As of today, as of this recording, who would you bank to win the World Series?
Whew. Okay, so there's a couple approaches. The obvious answer is the Atlanta Braves to me, because I think they are the best team in Major League Baseball, and I don't think it's particularly close. But does the best team always win? Nope. Yeah. So I look at who's the biggest threat to the Philadelphia Phillies. I love the Baltimore Orioles, but I mean, come on, look at that pitching staff. They're very incomplete. I love the Texas Rangers. Look at that pitching staff right now. DeGrom's hurt. The guy I trust most in that staff, using the same argument, you could say Max Scherzer, it's Jordan Montgomery. And if Jordan Montgomery is my big game pitcher in the postseason, like, I know they can swing it with the best of them, I got some concerns there. I think the biggest threat to the Atlanta Braves is the Philadelphia Phillies. You could talk about the Dodgers, and I think the Dodgers are always going to be that threat too. And with what they've got offensively, it's scary, but I hope our friend Walker can come back and contribute. they are trying to manage Kershaw's innings. Tony Gonsolin's out for the year. No one's talking about why do all the Dodgers guys get hurt, by the way. Dustin May's out for the year. Again, comes with the territory of just really talented arms. The Phillies are clicking on all cylinders right now. Trey Turner's finally playing well. They just returned Brandon Marsh. They just returned Jose Alvarado. Nick Castellanos is swinging it way better than he did last year. I'm looking at the team of this was last year's team versus this year's team. Last year's team technically didn't have Nick Castellanos. Last year's team didn't have Trey Turner. Last year's team got Bryce Harper in the playoffs, and then we saw what he did. This year's team has a lot of guys that they didn't have. They add Trey Turner. They add all these other dudes. They have Castellanos performing now as an all-star after literally being one of the worst players in baseball last year. And Alec Boehm's playing at a better level. They might get Hoskins back at some point in the postseason. I think the Phillies are scary. I really do. If their pitching can hold up, if Aaron Nola can pitch the way he's capable of, give me the Phillies as the biggest threat to the Braves.
That's good. They certainly have the veterans, the star power, the high-paid players to maybe make that run there. I've also heard them as possible dark horse in landing or signing a guy or having the money to sign a guy named Shohei Otani. That's my next question. Who does Shohei Otani sign with in the offseason and for how much?
I've been so adamant that he could stick in Los Angeles and stick with the Angels. Just because I thought that there's a level of comfort there, that they'd play a little bit better. Even if they didn't make the playoffs, if they showed signs of life, I'm still not ruling out the Angels because they've done every single possible thing to show them that they're trying. But there might be a level of him saying, hey, this team's just inept. This organization's just never going to figure it out. They just brought up a first baseman who played in Conference USA 6 months ago and put him ahead of him in the lineup. That's no slight to Nolan Shanwell, but what are we doing here? San Francisco Giants are my prediction.
Okay.
Because stays on the West Coast. They've been begging to spend money. They thought they signed Arson Judge. They thought they signed Carlos Correa. They tried to shell out $500 million basically, and both fell through. They have that money that they wanted to spend. They've performed better than anybody thought they were going to perform this year. They've got the prospects now coming up and helping them. They've got the role players, and clearly they've got the money. I could see the San Francisco Giants paying a pretty penny, and I think it's $550 million for sure. I think he's worth more than that, but I think it's $550 million for Shohei Otani.
Is there any case, and this has been tongue in cheek, and I've said it, hey, if the Rays void Wander's contract, let's give Shohei Otani an offer sheet of 3 years, $200 million. I don't know, throw in an opt-out or two as well. Is there any chance that he would take a short-term deal, or he's looking for that 8, 9, 10 with $500 million plus attached to it?
I'd imagine that his camp is pushing him towards the 8, 9, 10. But if you could give him a 3 with an opt-out or something like that, and he can go to a team like the Rays that just knows how to win, I wouldn't rule it out. Everyone talks about, the Rays don't spend money. I don't know if it's been publicly reported, but I know for a fact that the Tampa Bay Rays made the second best offer to Freddie Freeman. They made the second best offer. Better than the Braves, better than all. They made a very competitive offer. You know why? Because the Rays knew that Freddie Freeman was going to age like fine wine. And look at him. He's playing better than ever. The Rays will spend when it makes sense.
Right.
Wander Franco, it made sense. Freddie Freeman, it made sense because he's just always getting better. I think they can make a competitive offer. If you give him like a LeBron deal and he can opt out and he gets more AAV, I wouldn't rule it out if nobody else is meeting the, 600 number that he wants. The question is, how long can he do this pitching hitting thing?
Right.
Does he want to risk that on a short term? So I'd probably say he goes with a long-term deal elsewhere. Yeah. But I think the Rays should try it. I absolutely think they should try it.
I'm just saying they don't have a lot of money on the books. They're trying to get goodwill, and you can mask the stench and the PR hit of Wander if he's out of the fold. Bring in Shohei. People are talking about Shohei Otani in a Rays uniform. They're no longer talking about Wander Franco. Just going to throw that out there.
100%. And you answer some of the pitching concerns.
Yeah.
You could probably move Glass now then too. Clear some money. You get some prospects back. You answer the pitching question. You add another insane hitter to the fold. And hey, we know they like two-way players. They tried it once, unfortunately, did not work. But I think it could be a fun shot for them. I just don't know what the money looks like, but that voided contract from Wander could make it a lot easier.
Right. Last question, and I want to tie back to your prospect list on justbaseball.com. We mentioned the 5 Rays names that are in the top 100. Any guys that just slipped outside of the top 100, honorable mentions with a Rays tinge that you thought about? I don't know if there's a certain name or two that you thought were pretty close to that top 100 or that intrigue you in some shape or form that are in the Rays organization.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of anybody that was like particularly super, super close. For me, I felt like there was just kind of like this clear tier 1. The lame answer would actually be Braden Taylor, who was one of my favorite bats in the draft. I love Braden Taylor. I think he rakes. And it's funny, we talk about teams straying from their models. The Rays were hosting high school bats going into the draft. And I mean, look at what they've done. They always either go high school bat or like tooled out college guy like a Greg Jones. Mm-hmm. They're not afraid of risk in the draft. And then Braden Taylor falls into their lap. I couldn't believe he fell that far. And I think they saw the offensive profile and were like, we can't pass on this guy. I love Braden Taylor, and I think he'll probably be a top 100 guy, when we get to the final season update and some more guys graduate. So I'd say he was under consideration. I haven't been able to see much of like an Adrian Santana, so I couldn't consider him too seriously. I'm a big fan of Willie Vasquez. If he can clean up the swing just a little bit, I don't think he was close to top 100 consideration, but he's a guy that I do really like in that system as someone who could blossom into a top 100 prospect. But the one guy that was really, really close, I would say, was Braden Taylor. I think Mason Montgomery is going to blossom into a back end of the rotation starter. And sneaky, I think Colton Ledbetter was one of the steals of the draft. That was a guy that I had a first grade, or a first round grade on, like around the compensation. I thought he was around the 30 to 40 overall pick. They got him at 55. That's a guy that I think they are going to feel real good about stealing it. I pick number 55 there.
Good to hear if you're a Rays fan. Is there a team out there that's offered you a scouting job or a front office post? I mean, are you getting those calls left and right?
Oh man, I wish. I've got a couple like little nudges here and there, but nothing that I'm young, I guess. I just turned 26. I don't know if anyone takes me seriously enough yet, but it's been I really appreciate that. And it's been really cool to see people, value our write-ups and our thoughts at Just Baseball and, our perspectives on prospects. Like that's been a pretty surreal thing. And I'll be honest with you, that is my end goal and my dream, once the media, the Just Baseball side of things are done, I would love to be, in a front office or working in a scouting department. And, there's nothing I enjoy more than going out to the backfields and watching these guys play. As much as I love talking on the mic and interacting with awesome people like yourself, that's the pipe dream. And, I hope it comes one day. I will say though, one last note, guy that will probably enter the top 100 list that I totally forgot about, Santiago Suarez, acquired from the Marlins, right-handed pitching prospect. I think he was recently promoted. He's got some crazy stuff. 18 years old, fastball sits mid-90s, crazy life, nasty curveball, good changeup. But sorry, I couldn't get out of here without mentioning him, but I appreciate that question. I hope that dream one day comes true, but I appreciate that even crossed your mind.
Yep. Rays fans, look him up and also look up Aram and his amazing work. If you just want to plug what's the best way that listeners and watchers can check you out, what you're doing at justbaseball.com, your podcast, everything else, maybe some merch as well?
Yeah, well, you can see I'm wearing the Just Baseball hat right now, the Ropad, and that's a great way to support us, and we really appreciate that. But the Just Baseball show is every single weekday, with Mondays with Walker Buehler, and then the Call Up is the prospect podcast I do, where we'll be breaking down every farm system in the off season, talking about the Rays, of course, at one point. But right now we're breaking down the entire top 100, episode by episode, 20 by 20. We got 2 more on that. Do a lot of player interviews as well, and stuff like that. And then you can follow us on Twitter at justbb_media and myself, Leighton 8, where I will be tweeting Xavier Isaac highlights just about every other day. So yeah, really appreciate it. Appreciate the time, man. I always love talking with you guys here on Locked On Rays. I miss Ulises, but maybe next time
he's living it up in Japan. Actually going to a baseball game.
Ooh, that's awesome.
Maybe he can do a scouting report for somebody over there for you.
I was going to say, someone that I'd love for the Rays to get is Yoshinobu Yamamoto. That's an arm that could help. Maybe Ulises could come back with a little bit of a scouting report on him because that guy can throw it.
As long as it's not Yoshi Satsugo, we're all good.
Yeah, no.